See, I got
Good.
my arch nemesis, the mute button. Ah,
How are you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you doing? Grace, how are you doing? I'm
I'm
plugging in here.
well. How are you?
Good.
Good. I'll turn my camera on for a little bit and then I'll switch it back off. So here I am.
There you are. I often joke that I have a face for radio. It's like, what are you gonna do? But you're glorious. I'm just don't want to push my insecurities onto you. Uh,
Right.
okay, so Grace, how are you doing? Why don't we just have some a quick round of introductions and then have a little bit of fun? I want to hear about how the class is going, why you took it, and then I've got a few interesting uh, discussion questions.
Okay. All right. So I'm in this MBA program because it's something that I wanted to do for some time. I'm from Jamaica
Hmm.
and my bachelor's is very, very old, but I'm a consultant and project management professional. So I decided to upskill this year. So I've invested a lot of time.
Sure.
Yeah, a lot of time to get this MBA done, and I'm quite enjoying it. I'm doing the business and technology program, and really enjoying it. Love what I'm learning. I love what I'm learning, which is a good thing because with a lot of experience, you fear that you're going to come and sit in something that's probably boring or whatever. But it's not that at all. I'm really enjoying it and learning a lot. So I'm
I'm
thankful.
I'm glad to hear it. I think the although as an educator, it's not my job to entertain. I certainly do not want to be boring. So I'm glad that.
No, that you are not. That you are not. That you are not.
So
But the
so
material is it's informative. Put it that way.
Oh, fantastic. I'm
Yeah.
glad to hear that. We've got some
Mhm.
other people who've just jumped on who were on the last call. So we're going to do a round of introductions again. And Grace, so you said, are you currently in Jamaica? You said you're from Jamaica. Are you in Jamaica
No,
right now?
I'm in Jamaica. I live in Jamaica. So I'm here.
Okay.
Mhm.
Beautiful
Mhm.
place. And you're a business analyst, consultant, and project manager. Is that correct?
Yeah, not business analyst. I don't practice business analysis. I usually have them on my projects, but like consulting and project management professional. Also, I'm a CPA as well, but I don't practice.
Well, but that background, oh, it's got to be incredibly important as you do your work, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right. Well, I'm going to ask the others who have been on the call before to introduce themselves. So let's have Edwin go next.
Hi, my name's Evan Graham from St. Louis, Missouri. I am a product owner and product analyst for mostly for apparel the last decade. So worked for a couple different apparel and fashion companies.
Yeah. And now you, Gu, I want to make sure I say your name right. Was that correct?
Yes,
All right. So why don't you give a little background on yourself?
yes. My name is Yoongu Kim. I'm in the Boston, Massachusetts, USA, and I'm in the process engineer in the semiconductor or the battery industry.
Okay. Excellent. So in our Armand, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself? You're one of the most important people in the room.
Oh, thank you so much for saying that. Yeah, I'm the TA for this course, and I'm currently pursuing my MBA in business analytics at Illinois Tech, and I
Mhm.
graduate in about a month in this December, early December. And yeah, I'm looking for jobs. So yeah, that's all about me.
You're in a tough spot to be. Not only are you getting your master's, your MBA, but you're also getting your master's in Marion Cook management. So he's very good at making sure I have what I need and I show up on time. So I appreciate that. Now, in our last call that we had a discussion around people's backgrounds, but we also had an interesting conversation around what people are doing with artificial intelligence. So I don't know, Grace, if that's something you've had a chance to work with much.
Not a whole lot. I'm doing a lot of reading, studying, and I joined. We have uh, a an association here in Jamaica called Jamaica Artificial Intelligence Association. So I have joined with that, and I'm on the policy committee. But we're a little way off from actually writing policy. But we're doing a lot of work, and I'm kind of on the sidelines of it. But doing a lot of reading. And I use it, I use it in my work in terms of, you use the chat GPT, you use the PMI Infinity, you use the tools that are available, but not, I wouldn't say extensively for sure.
So we had a conversation around what tools people were using, and you used the term, I think I heard you say PMI Infinity. Is that what I
Yeah,
heard? Tell
yeah,
us what that
Project
is.
Project Management Institute. That's the
Sure.
one of the leading global authorities on project management. I'm a member. I'm a
Hmm.
PMP certified. So they have a tool called PMI Infinity, which really is it's really what you call it now. It's similar to Chat GPT type thing, but
Okay. All
specific
right.
to projects, and they're trained on project management, trained on their data sets.
Interesting. And you use that frequently?
I wouldn't say frequently because when I started using it was right after I actually stepped out of full-time project management to focus on doing the MBA. But my
Hmm.
intention is that once I ramp up back, I'm going to have to be more strategic,
Hmm.
And so I have been using because I've written a couple of articles and I've used it as reference and, and engagement and so on. So I've used it for that purpose, but in terms of using it in the firing line of actually managing projects. I haven't actually done that as yet. But they also have other tools. They have other tools, and they actually have I believe they have a PMI, an AI project management certification. I've done a couple of courses, but they actually have a PMP. I think it's a PMP AI, something like that. I haven't actually checked it out, but
I,
yeah.
I'm yeah, I'm curious to hear about all different applications. I also am PMP certified, and
Hmm.
curious as to how that would be used. I'm sure I shouldn't assume anything, but PMP certification comes through PMI, Project Management Institute, and it's
Hmm.
pretty much the standard in the United States for certification
Hmm.
around project management.
Yeah.
Um, and it's not easy to get that PMP certification. I will tell you, Grace, when I went into the testing center to take my test, they had us all sitting in cubes, and we're making sure that we don't have Google glasses on so we can't see and all this kind of stuff. I started doing my work, and I heard somebody in a couple of cubes down, kind of quietly crying. I thought,
Oh
oh,
goodness.
I
Oh
didn't, I
goodness.
didn't
Oh
study enough.
goodness.
That was not an easy test.
No, it's not an
Anyway,
easy
it
thing.
was kind of
Yeah.
sad. I felt like I'm gonna give you a hug, but they probably wouldn't have permitted that.
Wow, wow, wow. Yes, when I did it a while back, it was a paper-based test. I'm not sure if is it still a fully paper-based test now? Because it was a paper-based. I did 20 years ago. Can you believe that?
No, it was online. I got
Was
my
online.
certification maybe I had the opportunity to get it through my employer, so I thought I'm going to grab it.
Yes.
Maybe 7 years ago, 8 years ago,
Oh,
something like
okay.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
20 years ago.
well, so we could talk about that test for quite a while. I have some strong
Yes.
opinions about it, but so I thought Edmund or Yongu, could you just give a brief discussion of how you're using AI because they were very different uses, and I think it's important for us to just understand the breadth and depth at which AI can go. So, Yungu, if I could ask you first. Yeah, there you go.
Yes. The uh, AI. Uh, Actually, in the manufacturing, in our field, we don't use much like AI, like what you are talking about.
In
So,
terms of, because I
bec-
thought you had said that you did use it
I told
in,
the same thing last time in the
mhm,
environment is more the manual when I access data and let's say we sold the tool to semiconductor industry and customer the tool itself could disconnect out of the network. So which means data is not uploaded like a cloud server wherever. Data is located the local hard drive.
okay.
The thing is they
I remember now.
extremely
Yes. Very high
extremely
security.
yes extremely care about the somebody somehow connect that. They don't think the security is not perfect.
Mhm.
If you hacker, they can hack
Yeah.
because the system is operating 24 hours a week. So if that system is somehow hacked, they have a big problem.
Yeah.
Whatever the reason, if that is more like a security, their position will be eliminated, something like. So I told that kind of a situation, even when I visit the customer site, I need to take an exam. I need to have like a passing score like more than 80%. And so whenever I going in, their system is only work in that local environment. And then even I cannot bring my cell phone and my thumb drive or whatever.
I
I
remember that
only
now, yeah.
allow me to bring the laptop since I need to connect my laptop and system with my laptop and then diagnosis the system. So, and then interestingly, even though we provide upgraded software, like the GUI is much better, but they do not like it.
Yeah.
They like the certain version. Do not upgrade, give us this. So something feel like that is not going to the AI. They're moving to backward. They want to stay there. I understand that if the things change, they need to do the whole training of the all operator, all employee there. They need to reset every time. So that is not easy in their business side. That is a cost a lot. Also, during that time, system do not run, which means there's some money every second.
Yeah.
So if you consider one vapor started upstream, come out downstream, that is you will have that cost like a Mercedes or like a BMW cost, one vapor. So that's why their manager, if a system stop, their manager is really outrageous.
Yeah, that's
So
certainly going to cost. That's going to cost money. So the operating principle where you're at right now is just keep it the same, keep it closed down, keep
yes,
everything locked down, including equipment and people, and certainly data. There's a point at which you may have enough data to train a let's call it Chat GPT or whatever. But I don't know if you have enough data to make that, so I'm sure your organization's thought that through, but it's an interesting position to be in terms of not wanting to having it so locked down and so fearful of a breach that you're not taking advantage of something that may significantly enhance your company's
yeah, I mean
competitiveness. I mean, that's an interesting choice to not
yes.
pay for AI because it would cause you to invest maybe heavier in cybersecurity, or any time taken to train it would be time away from production. Am I summarizing that right?
Yeah, something like that. But the interesting thing is when in my company, they put the logo, digital technology transform.
Oh,
But actual
that's
work,
interesting.
we don't do that much. But the thing is, once I get the money, not money, get the data, we need to have some automation to analyze the data. Since there's a lot of data, as I said before, the system capture the data every second, 24 hours a day, and then 7 days a week. They keep collecting. And the system record what customer did, everything in the data. That include information included in logo, system logo. So we needed that data. So that way we know what they did, what was wrong, something like we need to have a troubleshoot. So in this case, we need to have like a diagnostic analysis. And then some we have there's a four different level of the analysis, right? So eventually we provided uh, preventive analysis, something like. So we pass through that, but we need to digest the data. We usually get the data 6 months data to 1 year data set. So
Right. I recall that from last time. I want to make sure to give Edmund a chance and Nahush to talk as well. But it's an interesting, so you are collecting massive amounts of data, but you're not using AI on it.
so this time a little bit easier. We use the automation with let's say um, Python
Mhm.
or the Excel macro.
Okay.
So if I ask the ChatGPT, they give me the code the script quickly. Not like I make a coding myself for that. So that is one thing I can use a little bit. So that way I can automate it, data search and and then filter it out the what we can look at it for based on what customer point of view, because they say that we have this kind of issue with those things they list up, and then we look at it, and then from there, so we take care of the customer. So the thing is, some certain automation is really helpful,
Oh,
but
absolutely. And your point, where they are labeling things digital transformation, and Grace commented that that name is aspirational. It reminds me of when products were what was called greenwashed, which meant
uh-huh.
they were pretending to be organic or
Mm.
whatever, but they really kind of weren't. So as Grace was saying, it's an aspirational,
Yes.
aspirational
Something
thing.
like there's a digital transformation is a good thing. If they can monitor system while they manufacture, if something's happen, they can capture and then
Sure,
give us
absolutely.
the real-time analysis, real-time report. We can more proactively take care of the situation.
Mhm.
But
Absolutely.
but the reality is not. I hope that is will be the case. I hope.
Well, yeah, that's always the goal. I'm going to let Edmund. So Nahush just walked in. Didn't walk in. He dialed in. And what we're doing right now is people, because Grace is new to the group, we're just doing a quick round robin around our conversation last week of how are we using AI. And Yoon Gu was talking about that he's somewhat constricted because of
Yeah.
security issues in his situation. And Nahush, if you remember last time, we talked about that as well. What I'd like to do now is turn it to Edmund to talk about, just give a quick uh, overview of how your organization, how you are currently using AI before I turn it to Nahush. So
Hmm.
Edmund?
Yeah, so my current organization, not super, kind of a little early, to some degree in their transformation journey. They're just kind of getting to the point over the next year or so to unify all the customer data in a single pool and stuff like that. So, we're working right now on kind of some pieces of that, some service layer stuff for different organizations. Biggest thing I do from a day-to-day basis, two things come to mind. One of which is as an analyst, I do a lot of really basic kind of programming, data analysis stuff. A lot of Claude code with that. Make a lot of kind of low-tech apps for certain departments using Excel and things like that. As getting new digital projects up and running sometimes is very is a tough pull at this company. Previous organization I was working with was very proactive about digital in general. We used AI a lot. We went through a large scale digital transformation over the 8 years I was there, about five of which was transferring to Dynamics 365 ERP from their legacy ERP, collecting all that data. And a lot of what we were doing with that data is AI related. We moved all our e-commerce, extended all our e-commerce from CRM. As a B2B customer, that was really, really useful because there's a lot of data potentially to collect about an organization. Um, did a lot of things there just to kind of we really weren't into like using the AI agents and stuff, but we did a lot of things to make real life people's jobs just a lot easier. Surfacing, recent orders and surfacing like conversations and various things around that, getting everything in one place, single customer view. But then the big thing, like I worked in the specific line that I worked for was for all custom apparel. So we did a couple different really interesting things, all kind of machine learning tasks. One of which was the idea that you could sort of generate like a home uniform and an away uniform. So you have kind of a standard notion of like, oh, this uniform's white, right? Most home uniforms are white. I can take your secondary colors and kind of generate some other potential things based on kind of what's popular. And the other like bigger piece is you have a lot of legal risk from trademark and copyright issues. Trademark specifically is the big one. So various things are trademarked for various sports. Uh, it's just not like you're kind of limited to the knowledge of a sales rep if you don't analyze that. So we started analyzing and putting together packages for all customer uploaded artwork to determine if there was a likely risk to a trademark violation. So they spent about $250,000 a year, I think, on a minimum, like resolving basically payouts to trademark trolls. So and also just from the standpoint of not only just raw money, but just from the standpoint of reputation. Like you don't want to be out there printing stuff that's trademarked. So
All right, perfect. Thank you. Now, Nahush, did you want to just a quick overview of how you and your organization are using AI? And I do remember that you and Edmund said that you were on a good trajectory in terms of using it more. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. I mean, from our industry perspective, so I work in semiconductor also, so Infineon, if you might have heard. So there mainly we use it for, let's say, fab analysis, failure analysis, and also in our development flow for the machine learning and predictive algorithm, uh, uh, let's say, prediction. There we use mainly for development, so that will be the back end of the system, and front end for all the let's say we collect huge data, so on the fly sorting and on the fly, let's say, outlier detection in the data and so on. So that will be front end, and back end is for fully development. But mainly for us, we cannot use direct off the shelf chat gpt or off the shelf copilot microsoft, because semiconductor, so we have so much restrictions. So we then customize it, and let's say we order it for our flavors, let's say. So we sign ndas with the uh, provider also, so that data will be processed and analyzed on our server farms and not on the, let's say, for example, Microsoft farm. And so everything will be localized then. So because as a fab, we also have all over the world, like 4 or 5 places, our farms, server farms. So that mainly causes a little bit of restriction, I would say, because we cannot use off the shelf freely, not freely, but easily available information. We have to, let's say, adapt it for our integration, all the agents and everything.
All right. Thank you for that update. So, the online classes are, they deliver information quickly. All of that is good. But, so much of what we deal with is more nuanced than perhaps, multiple choice tests and videos of me talking, as enchanting as those may be, can really handle. I'm going to use a quote that is directionally correct, but I'm going to get it wrong. And it's something, it goes something like, we have Neanderthal brains, medieval laws, and the technology of gods. So therein lies the problem when we talk about many technologies, but especially AI. So we have the brains that we developed back, you know, I don't know how long ago. Our laws haven't, are archaic too. And then you have this technology that is just ricocheting us, exponentially into capabilities that I don't even, I was going to say that we've only dreamt of, but I think a lot of things we've never dreamt of are actually coming true. So that's where nuanced discussions around artificial intelligence and ethics come in, because we have to think about, what are the implications of what we're digitally transforming? How could that impact? The ripple effect, is large and unknown and beneath the surface many times, and then comes up later and hits us unexpectedly. So I wanted to lead a little bit of a conversation around AI ethics. And I know, let me take a look here. I want to make sure that people can jump in and not interrupt each other. Does everyone know how to raise their hands on this? Uh, so I deal with so many different Zoom and Teams and all that kind of stuff. I want to make sure that I give everybody an opportunity to speak and not run each other over. But my first question is, who I think we all can agree there needs to be some sort of AI ethics or rules around this, but who's going to create them and how in the world are they going to be enforced? So I've seen, I think I might even have put in the course, different countries have different levels and structures around their AI ethics and their guidelines around that. What are your thoughts? What are you seeing? Are you seeing this in conversations? And if you did come up with ethical guidelines, and many companies do, they put them on their website or whatever, how how do we enforce them? Anybody have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, sure. I would like to pitch in. So, for example, now,
I see your hand is up. I didn't even see
yeah,
it before. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
okay.
I'm high-fiving you.
So, yeah. So, in a sense, right now, as I know, currently in Munich, so Germany. So we have like under GDPR and
Hmm.
European regulations, it's different. So, for example, we have our branches and development areas in USA, as well as, let's say, on Asia side. So in Singapore and in India, so Bangalore, everywhere. So Bangalore has little bit leniency in their usage, but USA and Europe has more restrictions on their usage, and Asia side is completely different. So, for example, we had to put special training courses for a site specific, because every country has different rules enforced. So we cannot. There is no free flow of the. I would say AI related information, because we cannot transfer directly from Germany to Singapore, because Singapore has different restrictions on their AI farms. Even though it is in our farm, like company same, but the land specific rules are different. So I would say we face it like day to day basis. Uh, and for example, in our company, we have provided from, let's say, HR and regulatory legal aspect, some training courses like shorts.
Mm,
So how to follow, or what things to follow, and what things to upload on the data to processing, and what not. Let's say, because fab related things are not allowed to put it on, because those are like confidential data.
okay.
So those you cannot put on the calculation in the AI. But let's say in the Bangalore side, in India, little bit lenient regulations with respect to AI usage. So there, then IT has put some barriers, so that okay, they can upload, but not level C confidential data. They can go up to level A. So it caused a little bit of trouble, I would say, for the IT department from the infrastructure and regulation point of view. But touch wood, till now there are no, let's say, uh, violations. So all the trainings are in good place, I would say.
So
Positive
the
thing.
trainings are there to tell people what to
Yes,
do.
yes, yes,
And
yes.
how is that being
Mhm.
enforced? And Grace, I see your hand is up, so I'm going to call on you next. But are you seeing any, how are they keeping track of who's doing what? Do you know? Maybe you don't know.
I mean, yes, because as I said, I mean, for all the co-pilots and all the engines or agents we use, we have our unique ID, right? Yeah,
Hmm.
identification. So until we log in with that with two-factor authentication,
Aha.
and let's say I am in Europe,
Makes
so
sense.
once I log in, they will open only things which are allowed in European region. But let's say if my colleague in USA, he is logging in from his user ID, then the things will be open for him which are legally allowed for his area.
Okay. All
So
right.
they are putting kind of like let's say gating there
Based on the
from the,
person and what
yeah,
country they're in, which makes
yes,
sense.
person and location. So
Okay. All right, Grace,
yeah.
I see your hand is up.
Yes, I'm sharing that kind of similar to the European Union. We do have a data protection act. They have GDPR, but we have a data protection act. It substantially protects personal information, and you have to have, these kind of data czars, these data controllers, data protection officers, which are specified in law as to who they are and what they're supposed to do. As
Mm.
far as AI specifically goes, though, it doesn't specifically address AI. There was a recent
Mm.
guidance coming out of the courts by the Chief Justice that gave guidance to everybody coming into the court, saying that if you are using generative AI to, write briefs, write papers, write whatever it is that people do in court, then you need to take responsibility for the accuracy of that information. So there's a
Yeah.
brief from our Chief Justice and from the Caribbean Court of Justice as well. They have a similar guidance. Called a guidance paper regarding how you are able to use AI in the court system. I believe some companies have rules similar to what Nahush mentioned. They would have some similar rules, but the adoption is fairly slow. Our public broadcasting service, which is the government, and the Broadcasting Commission, which is the regulatory agency, what they have done, they've done a lot of PSAs about helping persons to understand how to detect generative Gen AI material and to protect themselves
So,
against false information and that type of thing. So that's kind of where we
yeah.
are right now. But I believe the multilateral companies that are here, because some of the banks are multilateral, some of the manufacturers and the call centers, they would have very specific, guidance for their specific domain. But the country as a whole, we're still waiting to come up with our AI policy, if you will.
Well, and enforcement, of course, is one of the tough things here. So Grace, you talked about an interesting element around this, which is, if there's misinformation, that is getting out there, or, if AI comes up with a decision that is biased or comes up with a recommendation that is wrong, who's responsible? Who should be responsible for that? A lot of companies, AI is sort of like a car. Some people know how the engine works, a lot of people don't, but they still use the car. So the question I have is, should a company be able to implement an algorithm that it doesn't fully understand? And I go back to my car analogy. Do I need to be a mechanic before I can drive a car? On the other hand, if you don't understand what it's doing, you're setting yourself up for some issues around accuracy and risk and damage. And if the algorithm is doing bad things, however you want to define that, who's responsible for that? So, any thoughts amongst the group around AI gone bad? Nahush, I see your hand is up again.
I would say as a user or the I mean, not a person, but yeah, let's say if I'm using, then I should have some kind of sense of accountability and responsibility that how I am using it. So let's say it's to give an analogy, I mean, so for example, internet, right? To even and now, after 20 years of this one internet evolution, we now understand, okay, Google, okay, now we know first, second, third searches are, let's say, sponsored or pushed up, and then third, fifth are like normal searches, so after optimization and so on. But there also we need kind of responsibility as a user, because everything shows what Google shows, it's not correct, right? So it's the same analogy there. Everything you will get from the your prompt, let's say output, it's not 100% correct. So as a user, you have responsibility, in my view at least. If I'm using it, I'm responsible what I'm putting there, or what I will accept as an answer, because at the end it's a tool. So it's not like, I would say it's a helper tool and not a teacher kind of. So learning wise, we
Yeah.
have to learn and we have to understand, we have to analyze. But to speed up things, or all the repetitive task and searching, so let's say one thing I have to search, AI will give me in 3 5 seconds. Before it was, I have to go to library, look for specific book, and then also we don't have guarantee that we are finding right, uh, let's say, information from the library and books. So I would say as a user, it's my responsibility.
Any other thoughts on that topic? I do see that it was a widely published article. MIT had done some research and around how people interact with different tools cognitively. And they said they had three groups of people, and it was maybe 50 people or so. I don't remember. It was small. It was statistically small. And they said, we're publishing this because it's important. We haven't had a chance to peer review it. Okay. So they had three groups of people who were given the task of writing college level essays, like to get into a university. And they gave one group had like no tools. This middle group had Google, they could use Google search capabilities. And then the third group could use Chat GPT. And what they found was over time, the Chat GPT users couldn't remember anything they had done. They hadn't learned anything. They weren't intellectually engaged. They became more and more dependent on it. So then when we talk about it's still on the shoulders of the user to make sure everything is correct. You can see how that's going to, and I'm not saying they shouldn't be, but you can see how that's problematic given how people take the path of least resistance. And they may they may, check it out at first, but then they sort of quit doing that. I always talk about AI as being an over eager intern. It tries really hard, but it's pretty clueless, and you have to keep on top of it. But you can see your point of view as a user, I think, is fantastic. What if it's what? I'm going to turn it to you in a second. What if I developed a tool and I got lazy and it was producing bad stuff? Am I ever liable for that? So it's a mixed sort of bag. Edmund, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I definitely think the actual generative output, that's a really interesting topic. I think there's a lot of different ways to approach this, right? Like there's also in general, I think, like beyond like what I think we're thinking, like what are companies doing with our data, right? Like in terms of access. Like it's pretty clear with a lot of the stuff that's come out about the Trump administration, there's definitely private entities that are accessing large amounts of public data to train, not only just from the standpoint of like I think a lot of those agencies, Palantir is definitely one of those companies. Have access to stuff they shouldn't have access to, but additionally, like um, yeah, there's been kind of no general consent from the public in terms of data collection. There's definitely a lot of thorny ethical issues that are going to have to be worked in general, just with like not specifically AI, but just like what are people allowed to do with both like public and private data. I also think it's a pretty interesting book that just came out, mostly kind of about the dangers of actually the more kind of experimental age AI generation that essentially advocates for treating AI research essentially like in the same way we do nuclear research, which means that that's
Oh
going to
yeah,
also
yeah.
require complete control of hardware because it's probably pretty easy to get a company like NVIDIA to participate in that. It's going to be a little harder to get, say, like Chinese companies to participate in that, depending on what their government really wants to do there too. But additionally, I think we've seen in the last like year or two pretty large successes out of some of the Chinese companies, using lower quality hardware than like the giant NVIDIA rendering farms that the OpenAIs spend billions and billions of dollars in money on. So it seems like it's going to be tough in general, like as research advances in that area to actually treat something like that. Certainly not everybody, although it is a little bit possible to build a small nuclear reactor in your backyard. Certainly people have famously done that.
Mm.
It's a lot tougher than say preventing a like kind of a rogue company from creating hardware and stuff. Like I'm not quite sure how we would approach it's kind of hard to get refined uranium. It's probably not that hard in 20, 30 years to go get some like rogue hardware somewhere. So yeah, I think that'll be that I'm kind of more interested in sort of the societal issues. I have a little less faith in data in general. I feel like we haven't been able to handle prior to AI. So
Yes, it's not like we're coming into this pristine, is it?
yeah.
Well, so those of you outside the US, there has been issues with the current administration taking private organizations to come in to do cost cutting and getting access to all kinds of data that now nobody consented to. And now what's being done with that data, we can have a lot of conjecture, but we don't know. So this is a current hot topic within the United States. And we'll see where that goes. But it does bring up the broader question of, should companies be allowed to use personal data to train AI models if the data was publicly available but not explicitly consented for AI use? Now, the issue with the United States was the data that these private organizations may have gotten, pretty sure they got, was never publicly available. So bits of it may have been, but the whole of it absolutely not. So if data is publicly available, should companies be able to use it for AI training? Thoughts?
Right. Um,
Oh, Grace, I got to train myself to look for the little hand symbols that come up.
yeah, and I apologize. You may hear my dog. I put my hand up just on the last point talking about the 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 hardware and so on, and just to put in a little nudge there to say that what's going on in China in terms of their development of chips, from what I gather, the US may be comfortable with the size of NVIDIA and thinking that, NVIDIA is here to stay, and et cetera, et cetera. But the fact of the matter is that China really has, they're not as persuaded to be profit driven. They have no real interest in, they don't appear to have they don't have the same motivations. And therefore, what countries outside of the US may experience is an opportunity to use not something that is not from NVIDIA, but from China. Good
Mhm.
enough, that second level of innovation. The first one goes and it's fantastic, but the next one that comes, um, becomes disruptive. And that's a real possibility that China could be really disruptive to what's going on there. So, and to my mind, not just because I'm outside of the US, but just understanding how business and innovation goes and the realities of the risks associated with AI not being democratized. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, when you have that, you really do need another firm player because you can't have it's not beneficial to to the world at large when you really just have it domicile one place and Yeah. So coming back to whether you should have access to the data, I'm following that same line. I'm all for democratizing this thing because the data that is available for training, the data is available. They've made it available for training, but it was just available, and it probably was not provided for that purpose. It wasn't gathered for that purpose. But things evolve, and now the data is there. And there obviously is a temptation to use it for whatever you want to use it for because you have access to it, whether or not you had permission to do so. So I think the rules around ethics have to come up, but whether the world is going to cooperate as to what is ethical and what is not ethical
There's
is another
differences.
story because 5 years ago, we probably would have been a little bit more optimistic about our ability to cooperate. Today, not so much so. The US has shown its hand in how, with respect, how it has dealt with its own people, much less everybody else. And so there's that dynamic at play that nobody is sure who is a friend anymore. Nobody knows who is a friend anymore, you know, and
And
that's a
how,
real,
yeah,
real situation.
absolutely. Nahash, what do you want to add to the conversation?
I would say, I mean, personalized data, I would say as a user or for my data, I should be in control. So let's say if I want to share my interests, my food likings and movie likings and such kind of personalized data, if I want to share and give it for training, I'm okay with. So I feel there should be some, I mean, thin line between what you call it personalized data. So yes, my phone number, address, my blood type, these things, yes, these are medical record, these are my personal, because otherwise it might be used as like it's two-edged sword. So if my medical record gets out there, then maybe my insurance premium will go super high. If they find out, let's say I have something which doesn't fit in their clause, for example.
Yeah.
So that data should be regulated. But if I want to share something, okay, I like such food, I like such travel locations and something like that, then it's fine. It will be for a good purpose, because then you will get more targeted, I mean, marketed offers and so on for your trips and food. And it could be, I mean, for your livelihood, it could be helpful. I mean,
Yeah. And Edmund, I see your hand is up.
Yeah, maybe on a lighter note than some of the issues I brought up. One thing I've been reading about a little bit that I think kind of ties into some of the discussion earlier around just responsibility to sort of identify generated content, etc. Spotify is in a lot of controversy right now because there are certain AI artists, quote unquote, which again is plagiarism. We've stated that
Yes.
this
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
been trained on copyrighted things they
Right.
did. So those are currently not disclosed. There's kind of a lot of stuff going on right now about the nature of like it's probably unethical for Spotify to pushing stuff, this isn't stuff they created. It's stuff that the music companies have created to put up there. But yeah, there's kind of a lot of back and forth right now, and I think like that's only going to increase with the various social platforms. I think going forward.
Well, have you seen that on some billboard somewhere, there's an AI song that is now number one? I think it's a country song. So, how was that created? Well, they analyzed the patterns of all the other artists' successful work without attribution and then used it to create something new. Now, one can argue that that's all innovation ever has been and all art ever has been is, taking, what other people have done and making it your own. But, you know, who is this artist? um, and we as humans like to think that creativity is special, and we're finding out that there's ways around that to create new things. So it's an interesting place that we are at. And Spotify, are they currently being sued around that? There's a couple of companies that are being sued similarly for similar reasons.
Yeah, I know that I don't remember if it's OpenAI, I think because of Sora, but I know that they're in a big lawsuit right now with some animation companies because of stuff that's come out that's clearly been trained on their stuff that is now being kind of passed off as either their work or is clearly meant to resemble their work.
Yeah. Um, so I think Edmund, it was you that mentioned the Chinese AI. Uh, I don't know if anyone has read, there's a recent, after the last 3 months maybe, HBR article on the difference between Chinese and Western AI, which is an interesting example of control. So the United States tried to limit China's access to certain technologies, AI stuff, let's just call it, et cetera. And China, of course, said, well, we're going to do our own thing. And that's where DeepSeek came from. So I think it was you, Edmund, that talked about how the Western AI models are big, expensive, trained on massive data sets, broad data sets, et cetera. But the Chinese were actually came up with a different model that's very cost effective, less energy intensive, and it goes with it tends to be more specialized as opposed to the broad approach that the United States in particular is making.
Yeah,
So by trying to control it, we actually created a competitor, a
I was gonna say
worthy competitor.
DeepSeek in particular is an interesting case because they were they were one of the first ones. There have been open source models. I mean, even going back to the beginning, there's been open source models, but they were kind of the first one that every sort of scared everybody because they had done a lot of their training on kind of lower end hardware and didn't really relied on more traditional server farms. And I think they famously had kind of initially trained the sort of first model that came out that like really kind of put a weak hit on Nvidia and a lot of folks' stock prices for about a week. At
Oh
OpenAI,
yeah,
they had
big time.
trained.
Oh,
Yeah, it came out that they had actually trained that model for about $5 million, as opposed to I think the estimate with OpenAI's equipment that it would take somewhere around the neighborhood of 500 million to spend. And they do use like the fancier graphics oriented hardware for their actual like AI that you interact with, but the training was done on much cheaper things and kind of maybe show a way forward towards just like lower scale, and not only just from the standpoint of say like a developing nation or company doing stuff, but just from the standpoint of like a lot of folks are not really happy, I think, as Youngu said, like not happy with all their stuff being on the cloud. It provides some opportunities for maybe, hey, we could actually run our own AI on our computers and localize that rather than have it be a big cloud service somewhere.
anyone else have thoughts on that? I would recommend that it's a Harvard Business Review article published in 2025. I think if you Google Chinese AI, it might come up, but it's an interesting take on the differences in approaches and the results and just as an example of I think it's an example of how when you try to control something, you don't always get the outcome that you expected. I see Grace has her hand up. I do see a chat. But Zania Monet is the artist that has been involved in this. Okay. All right, Grace, did you have something to add to the conversation? We're coming up on time.
Oh, okay. And I just lost my train of thought. So you can go ahead. I'll probably drop it in. I'll drop it in the chat. I was actually looking for the article because I saw it and I was gonna drop the link in
Yeah,
the chat and then I lost my
it,
train of thought as to what I was going to say.
it
So go ahead.
it's I'm sorry.
Okay, that's okay.
I say I want to share something and it says sharing's not turned on. Armand, is that something you can do? Is that
Sure,
something I can
yeah.
do and I just don't know how?
Let me see.
Billboard does not disclose or disallow AI art at this time. It's going to get it's even if you put the rule in, it's going to get so tough to figure out, that it was AI generated. So as we're working through how to share something, I will paint a picture in your mind of what I was going to share.
All right, you should be
I
able to
should be
share
able
your
to. Okay,
screen.
great.
Yeah.
Hang on a quick second. So this is where the rubber meets the road, I think, in a lot of ways. So here, what we're seeing right here is, let me just get this out of the way. So looking at this picture, it's from the World Economic Forum. And what the blue says is these are jobs that are going to be stable. Each box, this little cube here, is 1 million jobs. So they're saying by 2030 that most jobs will be stable, new jobs will be created, and jobs destroyed. I don't know if I'm buying what they're selling. What's the reaction when you see that they're saying? I also realize that people get wildly crazy and say all kinds of crazy stuff about the apocalypse is coming. But I looked at this and it kind of made me quizzical. What's your reaction to this particular slide? Hang on a second here. Uh-oh. I'm going to do I see any hands up? So I'm going to let you take a look at this. I'm actually in an office and somebody just got locked out, so I'm going to stand up for a second and go let them in. So take a look at this and I'll be right back. Oh, I can see Gracie raise her hand.
Yeah, I just wanted to share that I had an interesting conversation with one of my young people who did computer science at the university, and I would have thought that he would have been in the bucket of persons who would be on the edge to benefit from, the wave of all that's happening and so on. It turns out that his job is one of the first to go because he's in design. So he was doing a lot of,
Really?
yes, that totally threw me because I was sure he was safe. So
Yeah,
now he has to retool. Uh, he I'd encourage him to go do data science, but it really just struck me that having spent his years at university learning whatever and being vested in um in design and doing web design and so on, he says, well, everybody's a web designer now with all the tools that are there. So
yeah, yeah,
he has to pivot.
yeah.
Um, and
So
yeah.
I also have an in-person class in Chicago, and this digital transformation class is one of the last classes they have to take. And the anxiety the students have around getting jobs right now, the economy is not where it needs to be for them. It's palpable, and I completely understand it. A couple of other interesting slides here. Yeah, there we go. So again, let's see, the blue, increasing use, okay, share of employers surveyed who say they're going to increasingly use AI is what all this is about. But it's saying here that these are skills on the rise. But when I hear things like tech literacy, well, that's sort of like, of course, or, we all need to be good leaders. Those are things that, I don't know, it just doesn't strike me as, I mean, I can put on my resume, I'm resilient, agile, and flexible. I don't know if that's going to get me a job. Even though it's true, by the way, it's true. Anyway, Edmund, I see that you have your hand up.
Yeah, I think beyond this too, the biggest issue I'm having as somebody who is both kind of bullish and pretty skeptical of
Yeah, I'm the
AI, I
same
think
way.
simultaneously.
Yeah,
I it's hard to know who to trust on information for it, because there is clearly an aspect of this which is purely a bubble, and is basically just the same five or six companies, cloud companies pushing money to each other. So
yes,
recently,
yes,
I think, as a matter of fact, like somebody, I can't remember which company it was, like took a big short position against Nvidia, which is probably the right move. I mean, Nvidia is definitely overvalued, but they took a big short position against Nvidia and then used that money to invest or sorry, they took a short position against OpenAI and then used that money to invest in OpenAI. And I was like, how is this not a scam? Like on some level, right? And there's so much of that going on around the economy and the big players in the economy that they seem to view AI strictly from the lens of like, oh, this is some growth we could have because like there's certain markets which they're part of which have now matured. Like there's not necessarily a path for Microsoft to have 20% growth quarter over quarter unless they sell this AI. So it's really hard to tell, like, when we're relying on these organizations to talk about the efficiency of their products, like, to really trust anything they're saying. So I really hope, like, kind of as going forward, that we do develop that kind of resource and trusted research that we can see about the efficacy, because it seems like a lot of the analysis of like business efficiency and profit have come back pretty negative.
Yeah, there's a lot, and a lot of AI projects themselves fail. Now, we are absolutely, I think, I'm no expert. I mean, there's lots of experts out there better than me, is that the tech bubble in stock prices, I think, is very real. In fact, so much of the value in the stock market right now is driven by companies that are doing this sort of circular investing in themselves. And I heard it, we are at time, but so I'm kind of like going to throw gasoline onto a fire and then hang up on you. But one of the things that um, someone said, and I'm trying to think who it was. I would quote them if I could remember who it was, but they said basically the stock market rise right now is fooling people into thinking that the economy is doing well when it's not. But the other thing that they brought up is you've got these, let's say, group of 10 companies, excuse me, who are doing really well. And a lot of what they're doing, seven top companies on the New York Stock Exchange, right? A lot of their value or their business model is based on encouraging bad human behavior. Like when you take a look at social media, just as one example, it certainly is driving a lot of, social isolation, polarization, outrageous activities that then, and points of view that are not good for us as human beings. The boxer, I think I'm not sure who I'm quoting now. I think it was a boxer who said, Mike Tyson, who said, the internet encourages you to say things that you would never say to the person's face, otherwise you'd get punched, right? So there's a lot of bad behavior that gets amplified and taken advantage of by bots and countries and all other kinds of things. And these companies are profiting from that. In fact, they may be even encouraging it. So, like I said, I'm throwing gasoline onto a fire and then hanging up. But when we think of where the economy is going, what kind of behaviors are being encouraged and amplified, and people are getting enormous profit from, you got to take a beat, like like Edmund, you were saying. It's like I'm very bullish on it, but I'm also very skeptical of it, and I'm also, I think, cautiously, I'm cautiously optimistic. But there's a lot of bad actors out there. Grace, I see your hand is up again.
Yes, and I know we're running up on time. I just wanted to say that I remembered my thought that part of the disruption that I'm anticipating could also be that they're going to be able to train models on less data, because the more you know, you don't want to, they probably, yeah, there is more, there are more inferences you can make just by virtue of having had this historical experience over the last 3, 4 years, you
Mhm.
know, and being able to make those inferences, and with the competition, the incentive of competition, you may find that you don't have to rely on, you're still going to need big data, but probably not as big to come up with, models and stuff like that. And the proliferation of those, whether there are any more accurate or any less accurate than what we have right now, is to be seen. But my expectation is that there is an opportunity or there will be, some will see or make an opportunity to do more, to train with less.
Okay, any reactions from the crowd? Final thoughts?
Oh, I
You
mean,
can just
I feel it's like right now we are at the first 10 miles of marathon. So it's a marathon. So we don't know yet. Everyone is at the full energy right now in the market. So, and this is just 5 years, I would say 4 or 5 years. So we have to see at least more 2 years. Even if we consider it's like exponential, still we have to see, wait and see for at least 2 years, I would say. Then
even, yeah.
who will come on top? We have to say. I mean, it's all, uh, you can be optimistic or pessimistic. So I am kind of optimistic person. So okay, I'm looking for kind of positive. So
It's it's thrilling. The opportunities are thrilling.
And it's growing super
Yeah.
exponentially, not even normal, but like parabolically it is growing.
Yeah.
So
Yep. All right. Well, thank you for
yeah.
an engaging conversation, everyone. I really appreciate that.